Okay, so here's another review video or an update video on the all-new Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra after using it for about 3 months. Let's go ahead and jump in. First things first, let's go ahead and highlight the cosmetic part of it and how it's been holding up for the past 3 months or so. And to nobody's surprise, of course, nothing has happened to it. It is a solid build. It's so robust. When you hold the phone, it feels so dense. You can tell that this is something, it's like a brick, right? You could throw it at something, nothing would happen to the phone. But anyway, so cosmetically, the phone is intact. Not a single ding or not a single scratch on that display. And of course, that is expected. This is Gorilla Glass Victus 2. It is built to be resistant. Plus, you have that aluminum armor protecting the phone itself, so I don't have any scratches anywhere. Now, with all that being said, I have to admit that mine stays in a case at all times. So you may experience something differently, maybe because you rock your phone naked. But anyway, so far cosmetically, it's been holding up very, very nicely. So if you were to pick up this thing here, you should not be expecting to see scratches or dings and things like that for a long period of time, right? And with that being said, as I continue to share what my experience has been like using this phone here, I still want to go ahead and throw some specs at you, right? So you're looking at a 6.8 inches display here. Fantastic display. I absolutely love this display. This is a dynamic AMOLED display here. The resolution here is 1440 by 3088. So of course, picture quality is top notch. Quad HD plus, of course, as you would imagine. Inky black, inky reds, right? So it's very, very nice. The colors are just so freaking vibrant. So nice to have this. Of course, it does support 120 hertz refresh rate, so scrolling through, top notch. In fact, it goes from 1 all the way up to 120 hertz refresh rate. So this is as smooth as you will get a phone to be. Now, my unit here is 512 gigs of internal storage. Of course, that means that I have 12 gigs of RAM, and that, of course, would be comboed with that Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 there. In terms of performance, if anything, it's gotten better with the updates, right? The platform, of course, is tailor-made for this phone here, and it's been working beautifully. Excellent level of performance. And one of the things that continues to impress me about this phone is just it does not get warm at all. It is so great to see that Samsung has made those improvements, including that vapor chamber, along with that whole new cooling system to make sure that the phone is constantly at optimum performance, right? Because of course, because it doesn't really get warm, it could truly perform at top levels with very low chances of, throttling. But anyway, so performance has been top notch. If you know anything about the Galaxy Note series or even this new S series that comes with an S Pen, then you would know that this is a productivity phone, right? So in terms of productivity, this will help you achieve a ton in your day. I know a lot of people who are constantly on the go and they need to be constantly connected, and they use this phone here in order to be able to accomplish a number of tasks. Now, I've already talked about the fact that I personally don't make much use of the S Pen simply because it's small, but it's good to have it here. Every now and then I get to sign a document or two using it, and it's really, convenient to use that. But other than that, I'm always walking around with either one of my tablets there. So if there's a need for me to take down notes, I would generally do so on a tablet. But if you are one of those people, I know quite a few people who use the S Pen. So if you are one of those people, you can certainly use that. It is one of the best styluses that you would find on a smartphone out there. One of the best right now. Well, at least in my humble opinion. But anyway, so in terms of performance, top notch. After a few months, you should not expect anything to go down. If anything, you should be expecting performance to get better. Because of course, since the phone dropped, we've gotten a number of updates, and as updates continue to pour in, you're essentially going to be using a phone that is progressively getting better. This, in my humble opinion, still remains the phone of the year as we wait for, the main competitor, the iPhone 15 when it drops, or the 15 Pro or the Pro Max or whatever they're going to call it. This is as close to perfection as you get with a smartphone. But anyways, the next thing you're probably wondering is battery, right? So how's battery life here? Now, if you remember, when this phone was still learning my usage habits, it was already offering fantastic battery life. I'm talking over 8 hours is what I'm getting constantly with this phone here. By the way, I'm a power user, and most people that I know who bought this phone are also getting about 8 hours SOT. Samsung took this thing to the next level. So what Samsung was working on hardware and making sure that it optimized, the battery life here. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 made for Galaxy took this thing to another level. And here's another quick note that I want to add here. If you were to turn off all of the high specs that you have here, especially that display, and by the way, I've talked about the fact that this display, the actual hardware is is built to also play into extending that battery life. That's something that a lot of people don't talk about. But anyway, so if you were to turn a bunch of things off, you turn off the Quad HD Plus, you turn off a lot of those things, and then you turn on the power saving features, you can easily see 4 to 5 days out of this, meaning you're still using your phone. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next thing here. Let's talk camera, right? So this is another thing that a lot of people had been anticipating on this phone. Sure, that 200 megapixel camera is not something that you're going to be using on a daily basis, but I've been spending a good chunk of time taking pictures of things that are far away, right? And of course, when this phone dropped, I remember spending my evenings taking pictures of the moon almost every day. And of course, as you know, Samsung said that even though there wasn't a drastic change on the hardware, besides that 200 megapixel that was added here, the main changes affecting the cameras were more on HDR and how the quality of the picture would come out. Of course, post-processing, all that AI stuff truly make for much, much better pictures coming from this phone here. And then one last thing here before we close the video is I want to talk about that speaker, right? This is actually noticeably louder than my S22 Ultra. The sound coming out is super crisp, of course, tuned by AKG, so we all anticipate it. Let me just go ahead and just do a quick summary of my take on here. It's been a few months, and I still think that this phone is the best phone on the market right now. I actually foresee it being the best phone of 2023. Again, this is kind of the general consensus in the tech community. Sure, we're gonna have the iPhone 15, like I mentioned earlier, come out towards the end of the year, ready to compete against this, but I still do not see a lot of those changes making it so that it beats this phone as the phone of the year. Now, we can all agree that it's not an apple to apple comparison, so a lot of this stuff, might be even subjective, depending on what your needs are, but I highly recommend this phone. If you happen to be in the market just for the best phone that you could get your hands on, it's this guy. It's not the iPhone 14 Pro, it's not the 14 Pro Max. Again, this is just my, opinion. Again, if you ask a different person, they might tell you, it's a Huawei, it's a Fold, it's an iPhone Pro. So what I'm saying is that this is the best phone, and I highly recommend this phone if you are currently considering picking up this phone. And that's for a number of reasons that would include performance. This is top level performance in terms of camera, beautiful picture quality. And one thing that I've noticed, it could just be me, Samsung is, kind of turning down a notch or two the level of saturation. I always felt like Samsung's pictures were always, a bit more saturated, but lately I feel like they're turned down a little bit. So it truly comes closer to reality, and you can experience that here. And the next reason this is the best phone is just the battery, right? That's one of the main things that, average consumers, tech enthusiasts, everyone is going after, the battery. This phone has some of the best battery you would find on a mainstream phone right now, right? And everyone agrees to that, so that's very good to see there. And just the design, of course, it's subjective. This is my favorite design of all time. Sure, I did say that about the Galaxy S22 Ultra, but if you remember, it looked essentially the same. The slight changes, the very subtle changes that they added to this one made the S22 Ultra perfect, right? So the S22 Ultra had a bit more curve, the display was a little bit more curved than what you have here. I think this is a perfect design because it then pleases people who prefer curved displays like myself, and people who prefer, flat displays, because here the display is not as curved and the phone is a lot more boxier than the S22 Ultra ever was. And it's almost kind of a nostalgic thing because it reminds me of the Galaxy Note series, and that was my favorite line of smartphones, the Note, the Galaxy Note. So this is a nice reminder of that. But anyways, that's my take on that. What is your take on this? Are you planning on picking this up? Do you have one? How do you like it? Let's go ahead and get that back and forth going in the comment section. I'm going to catch you in the comment section. Make sure to share this video if you know anyone who will be interested or who is in the market for this. Make sure to like, of course, the video. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'm also going to catch you in the next video. Up until that next video, of course, as always, stay safe out there.